as long as the conditions are equal, should you be a man or a woman, it shouldn't make a difference what gender you are in this race.
Exactly.
And anyway.
She's entered that race with that kind of stance too.
That's why,
as a candidate.
If she plays the gender card, I can't get behind it. That's, you know what I mean? For the same reason, I thought that it was very racist of the people in America to celebrate their first black president. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't even be an issue what color a president is. I think that even by pointing it out, you're expressing racial bias. Just like if you point out, and it's going to happen 1,000 times in this race, people are going to constantly say Peggy Nash, a woman candidate. You don't hear say Brian Topp, a man candidate, you know.
Brian Topp, a man, entered the race today.
Yeah. So I'm just like, in the interest of gender equality, I think they're all candidates, and and it doesn't even bear mention that she's a woman. But she's very capable, and
she's extremely capable, and it's nice to see her there.
Yeah, and so she's a fantastic addition to the race. And so, Mike, what do we have coming up in the show tonight?
Well, let's eventually bring on Dave Fluri and Gavin Stairs and have a discussion about the Occupy movement in general on a global scale, and then later on, I think Jacob is going to join us again.
Yes.
And
apparently he's got into it with a apparently Jacob's got into it in the Aurelia packet with a certain MP from the Conservative Party known as Bruce Stanton. We'd like to catch up with him, see how his exchange of ideas with the Conservative Party is going for him.
Yeah, and he's probably got some updates from Occupy Toronto for us, okay. And I think Dawna probably has a lot to add on the Occupy movement as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
we'll get Dave and Gavin to join us, and then later on we'll get Jacob and Dawna on with us.
In the meantime, Mike, I'd like to play a track called Ice Cream by Panico. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Give me love.
And we are back. That was Ice Cream by Panico. And we are joined now, I do believe, by Dave Fluri and Gavin Stairs. How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
Hi.
Gavin, how are you doing?
Good.
Are you there too, Dave?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Well, basically what we wanted to talk about, guys, is maybe in broad strokes, discuss the Occupy movement and how that's going.
Who wants to go first?
We haven't heard from Dave. We had a previous conversation last week, Dave, where we essentially talked about the Occupy movement and talked about how the Occupy movement is incorporating a lot of different views and how that seems to be its strength right now. We're just curious what your commentary on the Occupy movement would be.
Yeah, I would agree that there's a certain resonance to their message to the extent that we can piece together precisely what their message is. But at the same time, I guess what we've been seeing over the last few days is the movement appears to be somewhat disjointed and vulnerable to pointed intervention.
So by that you mean
a couple of protests were broken up over the last week. Yeah.
Especially in the United States, yes, for sure. They're seeing a lot more activity against them. And one of the curious things that I've noticed is it seems to be in areas where the weather isn't going to affect these protests, we're seeing a greater amount of action. Here in Canada, the police presence and the police tactics against the Occupy movement seem to be toned down. Do you think they're just waiting them out?
Yeah, they're playing a war of attrition against them, figuring that once the snow starts to fly, they're going to pack up and go away.
Well, partly that's true, but partly also we're just nicer. That's what it is. Out in Vancouver, they've been having this war in the municipal administration about what they should do. And there's a lot of election stuff in that. But I think it varies depending on what the local administration, not so much the cops, but the municipal people, what they feel about these things. So I think there's some politics in that.
It'll be interesting to see, because I thought there in Canada, for example, the major obstacle is going to be whether or not people can tough it out. But in the States, it doesn't seem like, especially in the southern areas, they're really going to allow it to go on. You see police forces cracking down, like in Oakland, and there's a lot of noise in other cities that it's going to be cracked down upon too.
Yeah, but we should be careful to jump to conclusions, because in Oakland, for instance, after the police assault on the protesters, and particularly on that Marine, the mayor came out and basically pledged allegiance to the Occupy flag. So things are very volatile, but they're not necessarily going all in one direction. And here in Canada, I would think that to me it seems fairly obvious that what's going to happen is that the large protests are going to disperse, because there's just no way that a large number of people can survive, in tents in a park in the city during the winter. After the first storm, they're just going to melt away. But what they can support is a small group, perhaps rotating, perhaps otherwise, I don't know, who would survive the winter in whatever shelters they can have. And there are people, seems, and partly churches, but others as well, who are willing to put them up, give them support, and so I think there's going to be a large variety of strategies for dealing with the upcoming winter.
Yeah.
In Toronto, the Occupy Toronto movement just put up, I believe, 2 large yurts.
Yes.
And they're hoping that that might be something they can. I mean, yurts can be weatherized; they can actually be used for this climate.
Yeah, I have a stepsister who survived the whole winter with her young family in a yurt in Quebec. It worked very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Dave.
One of the challenges I see in Toronto is it's the challenge of democracy, really, when you come right down to it, because they chose to camp out in St. James Square, and that is a little removed from the central part of the city, so they're a little bit out of sight there where they are now. Now I noticed that they have been, launching forays of protesting to the downtown core, which is a good thing, and it's a strategy that I would suggest, they should try to keep up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep visibility out there.
Yeah. There's a problem, or not a problem, but not a confrontation either. There's a need to be visible, but there's also a need not to be so obstructive that everybody just gets tired of them and says go away. Because once they lose popular support, then they're gone. So I think, well, first of all, I don't think we've got a clear signal yet as to what's going to happen and how long this is going to go on. And I think if it's going to keep on growing, and in the States it looks like it might, then the popular support will just swell, and at some point there will be a confrontation or a showdown or something, and we'll see what the issue of that is. But they've got a long-term plan in the States all the way to next July and beyond to the election year. So that's a long game, and we'll have to wait some time before we really know what's going on down there. Mm-hmm. Up here, there's no such long strategy that's been set forth. There may be people thinking about it, but it hasn't really been put on the table yet.
And the movement is very young in Canada as well. I mean, the States have a 45-day lead on any Occupy movement in Canada.
And also, there's not as big a groundswell of support, because in Canada we're not really at the sharp end of the economic problem.